Hi, welcome to Camp Happy Mail. I'm so glad that you came back to join me for another video. Today we are going to make some winter cards. We're actually going to make the background pieces to use on some winter cards. I am in the middle of starting to make my Christmas cards for the year, and I normally do include just some regular winter cards for some people instead of Merry Christmas kind of cards. So I saw a technique recently where the person making the video, her name is Natalie Bowers. She does a lot of things using scraps, and she essentially took her white scraps and she taped them together with washi tape on the back, and then she did various techniques on this side to create a big collage, and then she individually used those pieces to make a bunch of cards. So I thought that sounded like fun, and because I don't have a lot of winter type paper in my stash, I thought it would be fun to try to make some. Now I have a couple of things to play with here. I've got some distress oxide inks. I've got faded jeans, broken china, prize ribbon, and uncharted mariner. Those are the only blue oxides that I have. I've got a little Gina K white ink cube. I've got some glitter glaze. This is Brutus Monroe Fallen Snow. So that's basically what I'm going to use as far as the materials to cover this piece of paper. So let's get started. So basically I just want to cover this in the different blues. And it's going to be very random. There is no rhyme or reason to any of this. So we're just gonna start. I've not made one of these before using this kind of technique. I normally use one full sheet and then I cut that up how I need it. So let's try this and see what we can do. And I think we'll start out with the lighter of the inks. And I might, because there's going to be ink left over on the mat, I might ink smoosh some other scraps to use. So let me grab a handful of those. All right, so let's start with some of this. And this mat that I'm using, you've seen in some of my other videos where I've used the smaller silicone mat from scrapbook.com. This is the larger size. This is like 15 by, I want to say 22. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's roughly what it is. We're gonna add some water to this. You know what would be fun? Maybe if we add some Perfect Pearls water to some of these. Might have to do that. Okay, so we're just gonna take and, look at me making a mess. Making a mess already. We're just gonna start to lay down some color on this. Let's refocus us back in here. And again, there is no rhyme or reason to where the color is going. I just want it to be randomly spread out. You know what? And let's go ahead and do a couple of these while I have them out here. You know, I really love messy projects like this because you can just kind of let loose and do whatever you want to do. There are no rules to it. And everything that I use is easy to clean up. So let's get some other blues out here. Some of these colors I've not used yet, like this one, the Uncharted Mariner. I've not ever used this, so I don't know really what shade of blue this is. I mean, sometimes you can go by the caps on them. I don't know if this is one of those cases that you can go by the caps. And this one is bubble wrap, so it'll give us a different texture. Have you ever tried this technique of just smooshing colors onto a collage of scrap papers? I mean, they're all going to come out differently, and it's kind of fun. But I'm just curious if anybody else has tried this and if you were successful with it, because I can see this turning into be a real mess and not very usable. But we're gonna do our best to make pieces that we can use. That piece might be great for die cutting out some sentiments because it's so solid. We've got some extra wet down here. Let's just get that off of there. Okay, and I think we'll break out some snowflakes. So I've got this snowflake. So I think we will attempt, and I know that digital oxides aren't really made for stamping images, but we're gonna try it anyways. Well, that's nice and bright. Trying to at least get one snowflake piece or a whole snowflake on each of the sections. And there will be other snowflakes that we use too. Okay, let's go for this little one. And this is Faded Jeans. That's interesting because the ink pigment looks really bright on here, but it stamps really dark. And you almost can't see the difference between the two of those. How about for fun, if we take this and we spray through this with some of this. This is the re-inker in water. And this is gonna be wet for sure. So basically the technique here is to just lay the stencil down and then spray some of the re-inker in water through the stencil. The holes on the stencil were not that big, but they were just big enough that I could get some down through, and it's hard to tell because it looks like it's all just sitting on top, but it is actually going through, and you can see the dots on the panel that we're making. So I decided to go ahead and maybe try to put some of the shapes down and just put them over top of the big puddle of water to see what would happen. And I was real happy with how this came out because it actually looks like a blue sky with snowflakes, which was pretty cool. So after looking at this a little bit, I decided I wanted to have a little bit of shimmer. So I pulled out some Liquitex Matte Gel Medium, and I'm going to mix that with some mica powders that have a shimmer to them. So to get this on here, I didn't want to just smoosh it or splatter it. I thought it would be fun to actually use the matte gel medium, which is kind of like a paste, and put it through a stencil, but I didn't have a snowflake stencil, so I'm making one. So that's just a piece of cardstock, and I've taken 2 dies from Stampin' Up, and I'm going to run those through. Unfortunately, those dies are discontinued, but there are lots of companies that come out with dies for snowflakes during the wintertime. And you might already have some, so if you do have some, you can easily do this. So now that one right there, that snowflake, it cut out like the outside shape, and I don't want it to be just a solid snowflake like that. I do want the pretty design on the inside. So I'm going to chop this apart and chop off those extenuating arms. I guess you could call them arms on the snowflake. But you see the parts there that I'm cutting off so that I can have that centerpiece. And that centerpiece will lay back down inside of that shape of the snowflake. So there'll be some definition that it actually is a snowflake. So we're gonna get that cut up and we're gonna clean all this up. And now we're gonna start. Now that we have our stencil cut, we're gonna go ahead and take that Liquitex Matte Gel Medium, if I can get it open, and we're going to take our little spatula over there and just put a little bit out on the mat. Now you don't need a whole lot because we are putting this through a stencil and not just covering a big area. So we just need a little bit so that we can mix it up with the mica powder. After doing a bit of research on the mica powders, all my research was mostly done on Amazon because they seem to have the biggest selection, and not really knowing anything about mica powders, I thought that would be a good place to start.
So I went through and I looked, and I mostly looked at the properties of them, or I guess the qualities. Were they shimmery? Were they matte? Were they whatever? So the ones that I got are all shimmery, and they are all super pretty. And I looked for a set that had a wide variety of colors, a couple of different shades of each of the colors of the rainbow, because, well, I like the rainbow. So mostly what I have pulled out here are different shades of blue, and then I have some silver, because my color palette, as you can see, is white, blues, and then there will be some silver. So we're going to get this mixed up a little bit, and I will link the mica powders that I bought from Amazon just in case you're interested in checking those out during your research. So we're going to mix this up. Mica powder is kind of funny. It's powdery, but it's also a very smooth powder. Well, I guess most powder is smooth, but it was just kind of weird to get it mixed up. With this shimmer in it, it just kind of wanted to smear all over the mat. So it took a little bit of mixing to get it all mixed in, but eventually it does get mixed up pretty well. And once we get this mixed up, then we'll go ahead and start putting it through the stencil. So we're going to start out with a stencil that is pretty well defined without having to put that centerpiece in it. And we're just going to take a little bit of this and just spread it down over. Like I said, you don't need a whole lot to do this. And then I'm just working it into the stencil with my spatula. Because I'm using a cardboard stencil instead of a plastic stencil, you have to be a little bit careful that you don't tear up the edges of the fine details with your spatula. So just a little bit of patience as you're spreading it around, and you should be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up because I'm going to do several snowflakes on here, and then we'll get to the next part of this.
Okay, so part 2 of this. I know a lot of times whenever every year when I'm making Christmas cards, I like to use metallic paper. Just the shiny paper to give it a little something extra. I think it really does a lot for Christmas cards and for winter cards. But metallic paper can be really, really expensive. Now I do have a stash of it that I'm working through, but I came across a product, I guess about a year or so ago, called metallic gilding polish. And these are like a paste, and they come in a whole bunch of different colors. Today I have here some red, some gold, some turquoise, some silver, some white, some blue, and then I also have some of these Simon Hurley lunar paste I know he's got special names for these: slippery when wet and no diving. And then I have some paper glitz by Picket Fence Studios, which is just a white iridescent paste. And then I have the Brutus Memoro glitter glaze. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and I'm going to do full panels of the paste over them. I'm not going to stencil things on them or anything like that. I just want a full panel with the paste on it, just a light coating. And that's going to serve as my metallic background for that paper that we just made. So this is another alternative. If you don't have the actual metallic paper in your stash, but you do have lunar paste. Lunar paste is very popular. So if you have some lunar paste, you could easily make your own background metallic paper that you can cut out sentiments, or you can cut out shapes out of, or you can use for backgrounds. So that's what we're going to do. So since the lunar paste is so popular and a lot of people have that, let's go ahead and start with this. Now this is brand new. I've not played with this one yet. I have played with the gold, and the gold is really pretty. But let's see what this one looks like, if I can get it open. Now, my palette for my winter cards is not going to include gold. It's just going to be the blues and the whites and the silvers. But I am going to do some gold panels to use on some of my Christmas cards. Wow, look how pretty that is. Okay, so I'm going to use our little spatula, and then I have a bigger scraper to smooth it all out. So let's just go ahead and, that is really super pretty.
So I'm just going to start to spread a little bit of the paste out on the top part of this panel. I'm just putting a little bit out here for now. I don't know how much is going to take of this paste to cover the panel. So we're going to go ahead and spread this down over, and I can see already that I'm going to need to add some more, but I'm going to spread out what I have here first.
Now it doesn't have to be perfect, you know, unless you want it to be. I'm perfectly fine with it not being perfect, but I do want to get it smoothed out across the whole thing, and I do actually want it a little thicker than what I have going on right now. Okay, I think we'll just call it done at that.
With the gilding polishes, you have a couple of different ways that you can apply these. On the inside of the cap, it does have a sponge applicator, and you can use that rather than using the actual spatula like I was using before. I do have some press and seal over these just to keep them soft. So one thing about these is the consistency of these is a lot different than the solar paste or the lunar paste or other paste on the market. These are kind of like a gel. They almost kind of remind you of a combination of shaving cream and a paste. So you need to stir these up a little bit, so just to get them a little bit creamy and get them warmed up a little bit. So we're going to mix this up a little bit with the spatula and then put a little bit out on the paper. And then I'm going to use that foam applicator to spread this rather than using that big scraper that I had. It's they go on really, really smoothly, as you can see. And it's just a matter of spreading it around, and you can either make designs in it with this applicator, or you can do just stripes and make it go straight across or diagonal, or however you want to do it. There will be a little bit of texture to these because the paste is more like a gel, and it does have a texture to it. Like I said, it's kind of like shaving cream in a way, but a little bit more gel-like. So I'm just going to spread this out until it's covered to where I want it to be. I have found that the gilding polish does go on a lot easier than some of the other pastes. I didn't really have to work that around a whole lot to get full coverage. And look how pretty that is. Because the gilding paste is a little bit different than the regular lunar paste or the solar paste in that it has the applicator, what you want to do is when you're done, you want to scrape off all of the paste that is not dried, and you want to put that back into your container so that you can reuse it the next time. And then you want to take that sponge applicator over to your sink and just use a little bit of warm soapy water and gently just clean all of the paste out of that. That way the applicator will be usable for the next time and you won't have paste dried in it. And then anything that's on your mat, you can also go ahead and clean up. I highly recommend then covering your paste with press and seal so that it doesn't get dried out.
So here are all the pieces. Everything is dry now. It is the next day. So I just want to share with you all the pieces that we made that I will make some winter cards out of to share with you. So this was the collage piece that we did. See, it has some of the paste on it in both the blue and the white. The white turned out more chalky than I had planned. It didn't actually keep the iridescent to it, which I hoped it would. But there is some iridescence to this. I don't know if the camera picks it up very well. But this was the full piece. And again, this was taped together with the washi tape. And we're going to untape this. And then we'll have all the small pieces.
So I easily spent about 2.5 hours just making pieces. A lot of these were just metallic backgrounds. I wanted to make sure that I had enough to use. So this is just briefly all of the pieces that I have to work with to make our cards. And the cards will be coming up next. So with the collage paper and the metallic papers that I made, it was roughly about 4 hours is what it took to make all of the papers. And then I had to let them dry overnight. And from all of those papers, combined with some dies that I had and also some ephemera from my stash, I was able to come up with 18 different cards. And I do still have some of the collage paper and some of the metallic paper left, but I've put those in my stash for next year because I think 18 winter cards is going to be more than enough for this year. So let me know, have you tried this technique before where you just take some scrap papers and you tape them together to make collage paper to make your own background paper? Or how do you make your background paper? Let me know in the comments what you do that's different. So I thank you for sticking around with me today. I realize this video was a bit longer than what might have normally been, and I appreciate it if you stuck around here till the end. and I hope you'll give this a try. It actually is a lot of fun, and you have a lot of material to work with to make a bunch of cards. So thank you again, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.